What's going on, guys? This is Oliver, formerly from Response AI, now from TroyCombe.com and GetSeer.com. In this video, we're going to be talking about product market fit. And it's going to be a big one. It's going to be talking about how to achieve product market fit. What is it? How you can bounce back from building a product that no one wants. And then how theoretically hitting product market fit means that you become extremely rich, right? So there's different ways that you can hit product market fit. You can hit it immediately by, not getting lucky, but just building something people want straight off the bat. You can get it by iterating on a product and then eventually hitting product market fit. And it's going to be a big one, guys. It's going to be a huge video. I'm really excited. So Mark Anderson, who coined the term product market fit, described it as being in a good market with a good product that can satisfy that market. So it's a simple definition, but it's a complex and very sort of messy journey to getting product market fit. A very, very simple way of doing it, of thinking about it, is product market fit is when you physically cannot serve more customers than you currently are because everyone is wanting to buy it. People have their hands out like that and they're like, please let me buy your product, right? Everyone wants to feel that way and everyone wants a software that is like that, and everyone wants that kind of thing because it makes you a lot of money. People talk about your product, and we're just going to be talking about that today. Now, for B2B SaaS companies, or just SaaS in general, if you guys are doing SaaS or building apps, the journey to this is a unique path. It's very complicated. There's, lots of problems at hand, and there's lots of, things that you need to solve. And effectively, it's harder for the enterprise. If you're selling to big companies, it's harder to get product market fit, in my opinion, because if you sell like Netflix to just consumers, you can get millions of people on board, whereas you have to get enterprises to believe in your product if you're selling a B2B service. Now, what product market fit really means. So it differs in B2B, like selling to businesses, from consumer, right? So while consumer products seek like an emotional resonance or habitual usage, so say like Netflix or Instagram, right? B2B solutions typically have to deliver a measurable value to the business that you're selling it to. And this is obviously a challenge because big companies are pretty complex and you have to build a software that, provides that value to a large company with loads of moving parts. The thing is, if you do hit product market fit in B2B, then you'll become very, very rich, because if hundreds of companies want your thing and you sell it for, $1,000 a month, you're in the position where, you can make a lot of money. I'm going to actually shut my window because there is something buzzing outside. And we are back. So in B2B, product market fit has what I would say 3 layers. You've got user fit, which is when the individuals who interact with your product find it valuable. So that's very, very simple. Do I like this software or not? Now, they experience a personal benefit from its adoption, right? So they make more money, or they save more money, or they save time, or they get fitter, or they get happier or healthier, whatever it may be. Think like MyFitnessPal, right? Which is how I track my calories, because I go to the gym. I use that and it benefits my life because I know how many calories I've had and I know how I can lose weight or gain weight, whatever it may be. So that is a user fit. Economic fit, so the organization or the person, let's talk about organizations, they perceive the economic value to exceed the cost of the tool. So in other words, if you buy my $20 a month software, will $20 be exceeded by how much I save you or make you? So let's assume you build a CRM to track sales. If you get 10 sales a month through your CRM and I'm charging you $20 for it and you make $15,000, then it makes obvious sense that $20 is no tall order. You can pay me my $20 and you can make 15 in return. The same thing applies to, say, Netflix. It'd be much more expensive for you to, buy 500 films and buy 100 different TV show series and seasons. So you just pay Netflix $20 a month or $10 a month, whatever it may be. Organizational fit is when in a business, your solution aligns with a larger organizational flow. So let's assume that you do build a CRM or a project management tool or some tool that helps people code. Does this fit into the technical environment? So is everyone on board with it? And does it enhance the business rather than disrupt their current systems? Now, Figma is a massive company, multi-billion dollar company. And at the user layer, individual designers, so solo designers that were using Figma, they found the tool more efficient than alternatives. At the economic layer, organizations saved money on big software licenses. And at the organizational layer, Figma's collaborative kind of like workshop approach meant that engineers and designers and stuff could work together. So you see how you get the user fit, people like it, get the economical fit, it makes money sense, and then third fit, which is the organizational layer, does it fit into the business? The 3-layer model explains why B2B products fail despite these enthusiastic early users. They might have user fit, but not organizational fit or economic fit, you know? And it doesn't mean that a whole business is going to enjoy your product if one dude is championing it in, say, 1,000 employees. You know, you just get some guy overzealous. He's like, oh, totally amazing. Is it? Like, is the whole company going to like it? And does it make economic sense? So this is the whole point, guys, of the 3 layers. True product market fit requires alignment on all 3 dimensions. Now, product market fit isn't some binary state. Like, you don't achieve it and go, oh, like I'm here. It evolves over time. So markets change, alternatives come out, people will try and kill you, and people will try and bankrupt you, and people will steal from you, and organizational needs evolve. So obviously, as we're going into AI and the AI world, things are changing. You know, you might build an app that is just going to get replaced by AI in a couple of weeks' time. It's literally week by week basis. That's how fast AI is moving. Now, Slack provides a really good example. So their product market fit began with small teams who were in larger organizations. So let's say like an engineering team who were inside a big company, like say like PwC or some big sort of consulting company with thousands of employees. They adopted the tool informally because they just thought it was fun. It was just like a user-friendly, you know, it was like, oh, we'll just use that, then we'll share files. As these small deployments proved their value, then companies started seeing that inside the little teams, the economic fit made sense. And organizations saw that if the little teams are working well with it, then it's going to reduce overhead. It's going to stop people having to send hundreds of emails a day. And it meant that Slack built enterprise features to say, look, we know that the whole company's going to like this, so let's keep that momentum. And that's how now Slack can sell 10,000 seats at like $8 a month, man. Like that, like it is crazy. Like they will onboard a company with thousands of seats, and that's how Slack and why Slack are worth tens and tens of billions, right? Now, the unmistakable signs and signals of product market fit. So Rahul Vora from Superhuman said something along the lines of product market fit is when the product is sort of pulled out of your hand. So like I said earlier, people are just, please let me buy it. In B2B, you can't think of it like that. So you can't think that a CEO of a $500 million company is going to be chasing you around going, please let me buy your product, please. They're too busy. And there's no product that's cool enough for a CEO with that amount of time to be following you around, you know? Like people can build pretty cool products, but no one's going to be like pining for you or begging for it. In consumer, people do beg for it. So, you know, like you see these like skincare products like that go viral. And everyone is like, please give it to me. I need to buy it. It goes viral on TikTok. It goes viral on Instagram. There is like an overzealous like excitement about consumer. People need to download this new app. People need to download this. With B2B, like you can't expect people to beg for your product because they're busy and they make loads of money and they're important people. Product market fit there manifests through a sort of a load of indicators like customer behavior, market reception, internal operations, that kind of thing. So the qualitative indicators. So the earliest and most reliable signals come from feedback. So organic championing. So when customers actively promote your product to colleagues or other companies without incentive, importantly, guys, without incentive. If you've ever seen a movie, right? So a movie I recently watched that I did recommend to everyone. It was like before Christmas. I watched Nosferatu, which I really, really liked. Every single person that I met then who liked films, I said, you need to go and see it. Nosferatu is a film. It's not a business. It's not a software. It's not a SaaS. But you see how that is a fit. That is a artistic fit. So I have said, I've watched this, I've indulged in this piece of art, and I need to show everyone and tell everyone about it. Your software needs to be exactly the same, and it needs to be championed. So I was championing that movie for several months. I still do. And this is what you would call a satisfied buyer, of the tickets to that movie. If they're recommending to their colleagues and other companies without being paid for it, like no affiliate bonuses, no like incentive, no commission, you've created something that does solve a problem. Because remember, we're social creatures. We want to solve each other's problems because it gets us status. So For example, recently I've been trying to say fix a skincare issue. When I found the solution, I've then told 3 people who have a similar problem, and now they've bought the same product, and I did not get a commission for that. I just said that I needed to tell them about this because it it fixed my problem. So they've incorporated your product into their professional identity in a business, and they're now asking their colleagues to do the same. An example is, in Snowflake's early days, users would bring the data warehouse to new employers, becoming champions in each new organization. So they weren't paid referrals, but they were just organic, sort of movements driven by users who couldn't actually work with the tool. Like, it'd be impossible to live without the tool inside the organization. The other thing that I've noticed is specific and unprompted use cases. So customers who volunteer examples to you of how they are using your product, particularly examples that you hadn't anticipated, signal strong product market fit. So an example is Slack might have sold to sales companies and insurance companies. All of a sudden, a gaming company come to the table and they might say, we've got 100 employees and we've been using Slack, and it's amazing for us to design games because we can share files and share code. And Slack would be like, oh, we've now got product market fit of some sort inside the gaming industry. So you see how that's an unprompted use case they didn't know about, and yet they've discovered it. And it's very important that you discover these unprompted use cases. An example for Response AI, if I go back, Response AI was a sales tool for B2B. So you would, what we built and sold with Response AI, my last software, was you would record a video and then send it over email, but it would use like AI to change the names and stuff like that. So you could send loads of personalized emails with video. The interesting thing is that people started to buy it and then use it for like e-commerce. So if someone bought a product, a consumer bought a product, they would send it in an email. And I was like, that is not what this tool was for at all. But if you're using it to say, thanks for buying this pair of jeans, then that was something I did not design the product for that at all, but people were using it for that. So that's an unprompted use case that opens my mind to the possibilities of selling to other industries for other use cases. When customers of Notion began sharing like workspace setups, like how to write books or wedding planners or schedules, it signaled that the product was meeting like a deep underlying need for organizing information in like a flexible and like fun way. Because Notion's like pretty sexy, you can go on there, you can put all your stuff on there, you can write books on it, you can design products on it, you can make wikis on it, like all sorts of stuff. Now, the next thing is the sales conversation shift. So when sales calls and like meetings that you have to sell your product transform from convincing prospects that they have the problem to only now discussing how to implement the solution, then you're approaching product market fit. So an example is that Okta, they recognized they were approaching product market fit when sales conversations shifted from like explaining the concept of what Okta did to now basically answering questions about the problem and how to solve it. So the problem was now assumed and only the solution remained in question. It was not like, do we need this? It was, we need this, but how is it going to be implemented? Very important, guys. Now, the quantitative indicators. Behind the qualitative signals are metrics that provide objective evidence of product market fit. So net revenue retention above 120%. In B2B SaaS, the most definitive metric of product market fit is net revenue retention. So if it's above 120%, it indicates that your existing, so just listen to this, guys, it indicates that your existing customer base grows in value over time, even accounting for the people who cancel the product. So in other words, you're growing faster than you're dying. Much faster. Datadog's exceptional NRR of 130% demonstrates strong product market fit as customers not only retain the product, but they actually expand their usage and pay more as they discover additional value as their businesses grow, etc. So very, very important. The next thing is seeing that your customer acquisition cost and the payback of that is decreasing. So as product market fit improves, customers tend to convert faster, and they don't require as much selling, they don't require as much hand holding, and it reduces the time to recoup acquisition costs. So Zoom saw their cost of acquisition and the payback time decrease from 15 months to under 10 months as their product market fit strengthened. So that indicates that a lot of customers were joining and requiring less convincing, because convincing is what costs you man hours and labor and money. Then word of mouth, like we talked about with Nosferatu and me telling everyone about the skincare. When organic acquisition begins to represent a pretty good number. So with Response AI, we started seeing that like half of our users were coming from just searching up the tool and searching up the tool's name, right? So that means that we're not getting them to go there via email or cold calling them. They are going there to Google and looking up our product, right? So Loom found as they approached product market fit, their attribution data showed that a lot of signups were coming from direct traffic on Google and organic searching. So it was evidence that people were talking about it and seeking out the product without you standing there going, please buy my product. When people start buying it without being told to, that's very exciting, guys, and you are close to product market fit. Now, the methodical path to finding product market fit. So for B2B SaaS, so like for just selling to companies, it's complex. Now, the most common mistakes that entrepreneurs make is targeting a market that's too broad. So product market fit begins with a narrow, well-defined segment where a specific and acute pain point exists. So Salesforce, if I just have a quick drink, it's my Monster Energy, keeps me fizzy. Salesforce didn't initially target all businesses with their CRM. They focused specifically on small sales teams, frustrated with the complexity and cost of on-premise solutions like Siebel, right? So this narrow focus allowed them to build a product perfectly tailored to this sort of small segment. And then as they started seeing, sparks fly, they started targeting larger enterprises. Now, the customer development flywheel. So Steve Blank's customer development methodology provides an approach to finding product market fit. So first is the customer discovery, number one. You've got to validate that the problem exists and is important enough to solve. Two is customer validation. Confirm that your solution addresses the problem effectively. Three is customer creation, so establish a repeatable sales process. And then four is your company building, so scale the organization to deliver the solution. So in other words, as Response AI started getting a bit bigger, we had a VA or two, like a virtual assistant. We had people who were helping us with support, people who were helping us with code. And that is when you're building the company to align with how much people want the product. And the worst thing you could possibly do is build a company around a product that people don't want. And then like you've got a massive company and people aren't buying your product, and it's really scary. GitLab exemplifies this. So they began by understanding the challenges that dev teams face, so people who are coding. They validated their solution with early users who then became evangelists or champions, guys. So they're people who are saying, look, you have to get GitLab. As they confirmed their approach worked, they built a repeatable acquisition model through the community adoption. So only then did they focus on hiring and stuff like that. So what they did is they realized that they could build a community around it and it could grow faster because of word of mouth and stuff. And that's what they doubled down on. It's important, guys, that you find that system and double down on it. For us, mine was content. So if you go really far back on this channel, I talk about response all the time, the YouTube channel. And it's because we were using YouTube as the acquisition process for Response AI. It's very, very powerful. Now, the importance of problem space immersion. So finding product market fit requires deep immersion in the problem, not just superficial customer reviews, but genuine understanding of how work happens in the target industry. So an example is the founders of Viva Systems had previously worked at Siebel, and it gave them intimate knowledge of the CRM landscape. But they went further. They spent extensive time with pharmaceutical companies to understand their requirements and how they sold things. This deep industry knowledge allowed them to build a CRM that was specifically optimized for life sciences, and it led to obviously a massive product market fit in that vertical, and Viva Systems is now worth a lot of money. Now, minimum viable product versus minimum lovable product. So while the concept of the minimum viable product is a classic one, the MVP, like build something, that you can use but isn't great, whatever, B2B SaaS requires something more, the minimum lovable product. So a solution that not only validates the value proposition, but it creates genuine enthusiasm, guys. Like you're supposed to try and build products, guys, that people love, okay? And if they don't love the product, it's going to be very difficult for them to tell people about the product. Like, I don't tell anyone about stuff I don't love. If I didn't love Nosferatu, if I thought the film was pretty mid, I would not be telling people, because who wants to hear? It's not sensational. Like, it's sensational to say it's one of the best movies I've ever seen in my life, right? It's not sensational to go, it was all right. I'm not going to tell people about something that was all right that happened to me or that I experienced. I'm going to tell them about the really good things and the really bad things. That's why bad word of mouth spreads so fast. Is because people love talking shit. Do you know what I mean? So, example is Notion's initial product was intentionally over-designed compared to like typical MVPs, like MVPs that are really shoddy and stuff like that. And rather than releasing the minimum functionality to test the market, they focused on creating an experience that people would love. This approach generated loyalty among the early people who were champions, and then they became advocates and they were vocal about it, and that accelerated product market fit. Now, you're gonna have to go through a phase where you just eat dirt, right? So this is the do things that don't scale phase. Before product market fit, efficiency is the enemy of learning. So as Paul Graham advised, early stage startups should do things that don't scale to understand customer needs. An example is, in its early days, Intercom's founders personally reached out to every new customer to understand their use cases. So CEO Ewan McCabe, I hope I'm saying that right, he would sign up for user interviews with anyone willing to talk, regardless of company size. So I've talked about this on the channel a lot, guys. You should pay people money, $20, for an hour of their time, which people will typically take, to say, look, tell me all about your problems and your product, right? And our product and what you're using it for and why you like it, why you dislike it. This is labor intensive, guys, but you don't have a leg to stand on. Like, you shouldn't be spoilt in the early days. It's supposed to be grindy. Like, you can't expect to just make $10 million from just sort of doing a bit of work, right? It takes a lot of work, guys, a lot of work. And it led to strong product market fit for Intercom because they knew why people were using the products. Now, measuring and tracking progress towards product market fit. So how do we actually measure this, guys? So there's a product market fit score, and Superhuman pioneered a systematic approach to measuring this through their survey, which asks users, how would you feel if you could no longer use the product, like use my software, with 3 possible responses: very disappointed, somewhat disappointed, not disappointed. The percentage of users who would be very disappointed without your product serves as your score. So with 40%, generally considered the threshold for fit in SaaS, right? So when Superhuman ran this survey, their score was 22%. And then when they segmented responses, they discovered their power users had a much higher score. This insight allowed them to focus product development specifically on those features. Excuse me. I think there might be another sneeze coming. I'm going to try my best. I tried to mute that as much as I could. The insight allowed them to focus on those people and obviously now sell to more of those people who are loving the product. Do you know what I mean? So whoever loves your product the most, the product market fit score, you should sell to more of those people because they're going to, love your product more. Now, the retention cohort analysis. So for B2B SaaS, retention curves provide the most definitive indication of product market fit. So when retention flattens, which is an asymptotic curve, it signals that a core group of customers find enduring value in your product. So HubSpot's early cohort showed initially promising retention that deteriorated over time. So they discovered that customers who fully implemented the solutions stayed for much longer, and this insight led them to develop better onboarding programs, because if you are staying longer because I have done something, I'm going to do that more, so more of my customers stay. And obviously, if this is why I talk about onboarding, guys, and how important it is to get people to that feeling of wow, this product is cool, because they'll stay longer, and once it's part of their habit day to day, you are gonna you're gonna sort of build on that. Now, the North Star metric framework. So rather than tracking dozens of metrics, the North Star framework advocates a single metric that represents the core value your product delivers to customers. So for example, the North Star metric for Slack was messages sent between teams. So you guys can figure this out, right? Inside your software, what is the number one thing that people do that they enjoy, and that the more they do it, the longer they stay? For Response AI, the thing that that encouraged people to stay longest was how many videos they'd sent. So if someone has sent 20 videos this week, they are in deep trouble and they are in a very high likelihood of churning and cancelling my product. If someone sent 28,000 yesterday and 10,000 the day before, I know that they're going to be staying for a while because they are now using my product in a massive way. And that was my North Star metric. And that's how I use the framework. When the messages sent between teams for Slack was high, obviously that showed that people were staying longer and not cancelling. Now, it signaled strengthening product market fit because the product was enabling cross-team communication. So which company do you think likes the product more? If both companies have 100 colleagues, one company is sending 10 messages a week and one company is sending 10 messages an hour. You know, it's going to be the second one because they are using it more and they're enjoying it more. Now, very important, guys. You're probably not going to hit product market fit because it's very rare. And this is how we go out of it and how we build through that and go and pivot and basically, pivot until you win, until you get product market fit. But the uncomfortable truth is that most concepts, like I said, are not going to achieve PMF. Now, PMF being product market fit. You have to recognize the need to pivot, right? So several signals suggest that your current approach isn't working and a pivot might be necessary. Now, extended sales cycles that don't improve. So if sales cycles remain long, so people aren't buying your product for months after finding out about it, then the market may not perceive value to drive urgent purchases. So they just don't see the initial value and it's not powerful enough or exciting enough for them to be like, I need to buy this now. High activation failure. So when a significant percentage of customers purchase the product or trial the product, but they never implement it, you probably have a fundamental product market fit issue. Like they didn't see the value in working through the onboarding to set up the product. Now, with Netflix, for example, I know it's not a B2B SaaS, but with Netflix, it's a tool that you can use, obviously. It's a consumer product. How often do you go to log into Netflix and then just not really do it? No, you log in, you sit down to relax and watch something on TV, and then you log in. And if you've paid, you go straight to watching a movie and then you get the value out of the product. With other tools, if with your tool, if a significant percentage of customers purchase but they don't implement it, then it could be an issue. Then you've got the stalled growth despite investment into marketing. So if you start spending $100 a month on ads or $1,000 a month on ads and it's still not corresponding to growth, it suggests that there's a problem with the alignment of the market. So if you're just pumping money into marketing and sending emails and cold calling and nothing's happening, this is a problem. The mayor problem is the worst. So perhaps the most telling is what Montclair CEO Kevin Chu called the mayor problem, which is when customer feedback is unenthusiastic rather than negative. Customers who hate your product at least care enough to be angry, right? Those who are indifferent represent a more fundamental misalignment. So in other words, it's better for people to hate your product because there's room for emotion in the product. If people just ignore it or think, oh, well, that's bad news, guys, because people don't feel anything about your product. I prefer people to be angry at me because if they're angry, it means that I'm not solving the problem. So, there's a problem. That's great. If people are going yeah, it's all right. It's fine. It's all right. I don't mind it. That's a big problem because what the hell have you built? If it's not solving a problem and no one's really caring enough to be angry or happy, you might have built something that's kind of garbage. And that's okay. That's why we pivot. You say, why is it meh? And they go, well, it doesn't really solve my problem. Problem? What problem? And then you can talk to them. And then you can say, why, what's the problem and why? Now, you don't have product market fit. And the types of pivots in B2B SaaS. So the customer segment pivot. So keeping the core product the same, but you target a different customer segment. So let's assume Slack never actually did hit product market fit with sales teams. But they thought, that company that messaged us and said that it's helping them with their gaming company, let's try and just reach out to gaming companies and see what they do and see if it helps them. This is a product staying the same whilst the customer segment pivots. I'm now going to try to sell to other people because my current people I'm trying to sell to think my SaaS is garbage. Right? Algolia focused on initial like mobile app search, but they struggled to gain traction. Then they pivoted to focus on website search, keeping their core search technology, but targeting a different buyer. And then it led to rapid adoption and they made millions of dollars. So that's how they got eventual product market fit, by keeping the product the same, but changing who they were serving. The problem focus pivot. Targeting the same customer segment. So we're now staying in the same customer segment, but we're addressing a different problem. And hopefully it's more pressing than the one that you were trying to solve before, right? An example is Notion began as a code editor with collaboration features and it found limited traction. They pivoted to focus on broader knowledge management. So putting code in there, putting books in there, putting like schedules in there, putting like information in there about businesses, about financial stuff. And they saw the same problem for the target audience. They eventually expanded to become a more flexible workspace tool that had loads of different like moving parts. Now transitioning the platform pivot. Transitioning from a complete solution to a platform that others can build on. So Twilio is like a telephony company. They began with a focus on cloud-based telephony, but pivoted to become an API platform. So this shift from product to platform dramatically expanded their market opportunity. So an example would be, let's make one up. eBay was let's say eBay was a shop and it didn't get any traction, just selling its own stuff. So it became a platform where you can sell your stuff. That's the general idea of a platform pivot. You are changing pretty much everything about the product because you are providing a different solution in the form of a pivot. So there's a like vintage clothes company like app in the UK called Vinted. And it would be like Vinted trying to sell its own vintage clothes. And then when it failed, they went, okay, let's just make a marketplace for people to sell their own clothes. That becomes a platform. You see how that works? That's a tough one to do because maybe your software doesn't have a platform possibility, but it's something to consider. The value capture pivot. So changing how you monetize the solution while keeping the core product pretty much similar / the same. MongoDB initially used a traditional open source business model with support contracts, but they struggled to like make a good business. They pivoted to more restrictive licenses and like a cloud offering for databases, like for coding databases, and it improved their ability to capture value. So in other words, they just changed how they were selling the solution, but the product was pretty much the same, and like how they phrased the sale. Now, executing a successful pivot. So pivoting successfully requires strategic clarity and operational discipline. So preserve what works. Effective pivots often maintain core technology or customer assets while changing the business approach around them. So in other words, Slack pivoted from game development, for example, to enterprise communication. They preserved their underlying technology. So a weird fact is that Slack used to design games. Slack used to be like Rockstar Games, for example, where they like made video games. And then they preserved their underlying technology for like real-time chat and state stuff and the synchronization. And then it became central to their communications app. And now Slack is worth billions. Now test before you leap. So before committing to a pivot, conduct small experiments to validate the new direction. So before pivoting from single player to multiplayer gaming, Unity Technologies spent months testing different business models with small customer segments. So that allowed them to validate their enterprise approach before committing resources. So in other words, don't just think, oh, I need to pivot and then just make something up. It needs to be tested, guys. It needs to be tested because you might make a massive pivot in the business and it just doesn't go very well because you didn't test it. Now, communicate the why, not just the what. So for both team members and existing customers, for both team members and existing customers, understanding the reason behind a pivot is crucial because you need other people to be bought in. So when Segment pivoted from education analytics to a data infrastructure platform, Peter Reinhardt, the CEO, shared the data that led to the decision. So if you have a co-founder or you have current customers, you have to tell them why you are pivoting and what the process is and how things are going to change for them. Because if you have a company with, say, 3 people or 5 people or 10 people, or even it's just you and your friend who built the company, you need to align on that before you change an entire business model or before you do a platform pivot, before you do a customer segment pivot. You have to know why you're doing it and you have to have reasons to do it. Now, improving unit economics. So the pivot paradox. If metrics like conversion rates or retention are improving with each product iteration, so every time you do a little pivot or change things, you might be on the right track, even if overall growth is slower than hoped. So it took Wiz nearly 2 years to actually achieve decent revenue, but then their conversion rates improved and improved and improved, and then it eventually led to extraordinary growth, because once product market fit is established, guys, you'll feel it. It's like, oh my God, I'm making so much money and things are crazy. For us, we achieved relative product market fit with Response because people were just signing up every day and just paying us up front for the tool, and then coming back with, like, you know, really good reviews on it, and they were happy with it. So that's like the relative product market fit that you can achieve. Beyond initial fit, expanding and defending the product market fit. So finding initial product market fit is really hard, but it's only the beginning. So sustaining that and expanding it is very challenging, because in B2B markets, competitors are going to try and kill you. Like I said, they're going to try and undercut you, slash you up, kill you, murder you. And there's changing customer needs, guys, and it constantly threatens to erode your progress inside the market. So you go from single player to multiplayer fit. So many B2B products begin with strong fit for some users or small teams, but they have to now, as you grow, you have to deliver value across the whole organization. So Figma began with excellent product market fit for individual designers, but their explosive growth came from expanding to multiplayer, which was collaborative design and having loads of people on one workspace. And it involved engineers and product managers and stakeholders and stuff like that. And this evolution meant that they expanded their potential market because more colleagues were using it together. And once colleagues are like using it together, guys, and like logging in at the same time, and like, oh man, you are in for a real treat, and you could sell your company for millions, because you've created a wildfire effect where colleagues are using it and they rely on it. Okay. Now, defending against competitors. So strong product market fit inevitably attracts competition. So defending against these threats, because listen, people know, like, people can smell if you've hit product market fit, because everyone's talking about their product and not, you know, your product and not theirs. So they're getting jealous. They're thinking, okay, how can we stab them up, and how can we behead them, and how can we win? Now, you got to deepen your understanding of customer needs so that other people don't have those insights. So this is why talking to customers is so important, guys, because if you have 100 customers, your competitors who are trying to kill you every day don't have access to those people, right? They don't have access to that knowledge and to those opinions of people. Now, Shopify maintains strong product market fit despite intense competition, because they constantly added new partners and integrations and plugins and applications to the tool. This meant switching costs were made higher, and it ensured merchants received a constant set of capabilities, and they never had to change platforms. With Response, what we did is we could, for the time, we could only really send emails through a couple of platforms. What we did is we set it up so that you could then send from another platform and another platform. And then finally, we had, say, 10 platforms you could send the videos from. This meant that people stayed longer because their specific platform was available in the tool, and they could do what they needed to do. If they were paying us for it, they could achieve the outcome they needed, because we had added more partners and integrations and, you know, access and stuff like that, and more little tools. You have to grow your company by acknowledging that there's going to be competitors and seeing how you can lap them and cause problems for them, because you are here to kill them, guys. If competitors arrive, you need to behead them with a sword, and you need to win, because we are not in it to be funny and kind, yeah, you can just steal my product. Kill them, actually kill them, because you need to fully understand that they will eat you alive, and your company will fail if you are not aggressive and if you are not on the ball with your customers. You have to know what they love. Now, the second product challenge. So many companies struggle with their second big product because they underestimate how different the product market fit process is when the customer expectations are already established. So HubSpot expanded from marketing to sales software by treating their second product as if it was a brand new startup. Most of you guys aren't going to be here yet, like on the second product, because it's a pretty like significant, thing to even get the first product going. They assigned a team, they established separate metrics, and they basically followed the same like product market fit process they had for their first offering of HubSpot, and they acted like it was just their first rodeo. Now, product market fit as a journey, not a destination. So the concept of product market fit can sometimes be misunderstood, right? It's not like a state that you have or you don't. The reality is that it's more nuanced, and product market fit exists on a spectrum. So it's constantly evolving. You can get it and then lose it the next day, right? You could get product market fit and then it can be replaced by some tool the next day. Think about these ChatGPT tools, like an AI image editor might have product market fit because it's, $50 and people use it. And then suddenly someone might come out with a competitor that's free or is 100 times better. And now you've lost product market fit because you've lost the users because they're not using your product anymore. So it's constantly evolving, and customer needs shift, guys, constantly. The most successful companies treat product market fit not as a milestone to be achieved, but as a more sort of ongoing process of alignment and realignment with market needs. And they build organizations that can identify those gaps between the offering and what the customers need, and then sort of iterate on those gaps. In this way, the search for product market fit is never complete. It's a journey of discovery and adapting and then pivoting constantly and renewal and, rebuilding things from the ground up and deleting things and stuff like that. The companies that master this process don't find this temporary success. They become the unicorns that are worth billions, or they become the next Instantly, which is worth, hundreds of millions, or they become the next Apollo.io, which is, like these kinds of things become really, really seriously big, right? And you can become a deca or even 100+ millionaire by building a product that has product market fit. Because once people start buying it and they can't stop buying it and they don't cancel it, you've created a monster, and it's just going to become so large that you will never realize how rich you could truly get, and you sell it for 100 million. But that's really hard to do, right? And there's millionths of a percentage of people who actually do it. And that's how hard true product market fit is. With Response, I think I admit that we didn't have 100% product market fit. We won by brute force. So we got a lot of customers by brute force, a lot of content, a lot of like freebies, a lot of stuff like that. And we had some degree of product market fit because people enjoyed the product and they stayed, but they didn't stay for years and years, So that's the problem. These big companies, they stay for years. I've been a customer of Netflix for 3 years. I'm probably not going to cancel it because I watch it with my friends, I watch it with my partner. She and I watch it together, and it's like, okay, well, whatever. And this is the whole point of product market fit, is you need to know if a person is using it long term and they are not canceling and they are telling other people about it, you have product market fit. That's the end of the sort of lesson, guys. So any problems at all, give me a shout. Any questions, let me know. But God bless and take care.